The library is open and I can't wait to spy on some book lives. My fellow nosies, let's see how messy this one gets. This is Letters to Prime, Prisoner 926179, and it's by Ray Anderson. It's actually a prequel and then a duet. I have a feeling that the series isn't done and there'll be another book on Pierre, one of the other brothers. There aren't really too many triggers in this one. There is violence. It's about incarceration, as you can see with the title of the book. Well, I mean, it could possibly be a trigger for some people. So this is just letters between the two protagonists of that book, Winter and Prime. Prime is in prison for a really bad crime, and Winter starts talking to him. He's joined the program where you can have letters sent to you. She went through profiles looking at people's pictures and she opted out of finding out about the crime that he's committed and felt that if he wanted her to know, he would tell her what the crime is. What I didn't like about this is, firstly, this is actually not even about the book. So in the front cover, there's a disclaimer that says that it's a work of fiction and that events, incidents, and characters are from the author's imagination, that any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, is coincidental and not intended by the author. But then on the following page, it says it's inspired by actual events. So I was really like, well, which one is it kind of thing? So that kind of threw me off a little bit. Winter had my blood pressure through the roof from the very first page. She's speaking to a prisoner that she has never met before or spoken to, and she gives this man her occupation, her city, how long she's lived there, where she works, the state she used to live in, her nickname, her age, her hobbies. Oh my god. She even tells this guy the places that she visits. I was like, girl, do you have no self-preservation whatsoever? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Please don't do this. Oh my god, this girl, she had my heart palpitations going. So, okay, what I liked, the letter format, especially as a prequel that's kept separate from the other writing styles to come in the other book. And I discovered how much I loved it when I reviewed, what book was it? It was like that rom-com between the author, a reader who loved his book. Shout out to future me. I remember the name of the book. It's The Neighbor Favor. They managed to have a twist in such a short prequel like this, and I actually didn't see it coming. So I thought that was impressive. And then I feel like it set up the series so well. It made it so I couldn't wait to read the next book in line, but also nervous because it now has to live up to its own hype, if that makes sense. I would rate Letters to Prime as a 5. That was definitely a 5-star read. I really, really enjoyed it, even though it's super, super short. Don't expect it to be a full-length book. It is not that. So the next book in line is The Saxophonist. This second book is after Prime has been released from prison. He goes on this revenge tour. He is determined to make everybody who wrongfully sent him to prison pay. Winter, she is as flighty as she was in the first installment. Like, you know how she was just giving away all of her private information and just had no sense of like self-preservation whatsoever. She continues on with that in this book. She is definitely looking for love. She's someone who picks wrong all of the time. So for this one, I would say there are, again, trigger warnings, all types of violence. There's going to be murders, there's going to be cover-ups, just like the first book, but worse, because it's a full length. So Winter lets Prime off the hook way too much. He just doesn't have to ever answer to anything. And at his big age, it's really the least that he can do. I'm also going to say that throughout this whole thing, you're going to get light spoilers for sure. And as we go on, because I'm dealing with books that are on a knock on to the other, I might have spoilers from the previous installment. I thought a proper conversation was due between Peyton and Prime, considering everything that happened and how it's already been left unaddressed for 10 years, and it's something that's so big that it really can't go unaddressed the way that it's going. I also felt like what happened to Peyton was really vague. Who beat her up? How was Camille somewhere she could so easily walk out of without anyone noticing, considering what she did? I thought that was really bizarre, and we needed more when it came to that, and it just didn't give that at all. Moving on to the things that I liked, they immediately cleared up the confusion that I had from the inside of letters to Prime stating that the book was inspired. So this clears that up completely. No confusion anymore. So this is actually inspired by friends and family stories that they have shared with Ray Anderson, and she has used that as inspiration to create these books. Thank you for clearing that up. The chemistry was so far off the charts, it had me feeling like I was peeping in someone's window and I was seeing what I shouldn't. Seriously, it was hot, it was heated, it was fire, it was giving everything. So I also really loved Winter having these sort of prophetic dreams, keeping it quite vague. I thought was a smart move. So we just know that she has them. It's really enough because it's enough to make them feel realistic and not supernatural. Also, I loved that this did not end on a cliffhanger, but on a promise of things to come. The author clearly states the next book will be the last in the series, although I still feel like Pierre, the brother, might get his own book. I felt really open-ended, which I love. I hate starting a series and not realizing that it is one, and then you get to the end and then you realize there's going to be another year before you can read the next installment. The Violinist, this one is about Piper, who is Prime's sister. So she is coming out of a bad divorce with someone who was cheating on her. He was disrespecting her quite a lot, and he was in a relationship with their mutual friends who were also married, so he was sleeping with the wife of his best friend. Yeah, it's very messy what he was doing. Anyway, he ends up becoming incarcerated for creating some revenge pee on the wife of his best friend. So he's incarcerated, and Piper is really trying to move on with her life, trying to move forward and heal from the horrible stuff that has gone down in her marriage. And Denham, who we met in book 1, he is a detective who was snooping around Winter and thinking that she had something to do with a crime that he was trying to solve. And him and Piper, they meet and they immediately feel drawn together. So I'm gonna go to the things that I didn't like. Unfortunately, it's actually kind of a long list. It jumped to a completely different character, and in all honesty, I was expecting it to be another book on Prime and Winter, since there are parts of the story that was just really unfinished. I felt like there was more that needed to be wrapped up than what we ended up getting. So even though Piper knows Denham's profession and the sorts of things that her family is involved in, she doesn't even check he's there for her and not to get to her family. I really felt like this was a massive oversight. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be dealing with him, but she should do at least her due diligence. The stakes are high. She's endangering her family by bringing law enforcement into their lives without telling them. She opts not to tell her dad because, and I quote, "Especially when my father operated from the shadows of the law's opposing side, Denham, with his badge and unwavering sense of justice, would either become a target or a tool." So this tells me that she clearly understands that the opposing sides could cause some issues, but she only considers this in like the most selfish of ways. She doesn't consider that he might know who her family is, especially with them being well known, like they have a well-known name. She doesn't consider the danger that he could be to any of them, and she still invites him to a family wedding that, in all honesty, he has no right to be a part of. Seriously. Crazier still, she doesn't consider Denham could end up dead because of a misunderstanding or potential investigations he may be involved in that includes her family. Ultimately, Piper winds up feeling like she's really naive, and it makes her unlikable to me. I also felt like the book as a whole, for the most part, it felt more on the mundane side. There's no real excitement or want to figure out what's happening, especially like I would say from up until like the halfway point, I would say. I think that this is because Ray Anderson wants to concentrate on the family. So while book 2 was heavily centered on Prime. This last installment is all about Piper, but where Prime had to navigate his relationship with his daughter, a woman he was falling for, but wasn't really sure how to treat her, getting revenge on people who wrongfully put him in jail, and then meeting his dad who had disowned him, and then he had the potential of this detective being on his trail. Following Piper is largely based on her emotions about a relationship she's no longer in, like her husband, and her supposedly keeping her family together, but we don't really see this. Like, we just keep getting told that she's the glue, she keeps her family together, but we don't see that at all. I did not get that she held this family together in any kind of way. She just kept talking about how great she was and that also led to the unlikability factor, because she kept saying her inner thoughts like, oh, you know, who's gonna do it if I don't do it? But you're not really doing anything either. So I didn't really appreciate that or believe in that as a character. The feelings that she keeps saying, like how she holds everyone together, it also acts as the reasoning for why she feels like she deserves to have this relationship just for her, and as an explanation for why it's okay to endanger her family by putting them in close proximity to law enforcement. The one thing here, though, that works in her favor is that her dad knows about her relationship already, and as we saw with book 2, he watches his children and he intervenes when necessary before there's a big issue. So maybe she feels like her dad already knows, and that means he probably got a background check done and the detective is not a threat, and maybe that's why she feels comfortable about bringing him to her brother's wedding. But on the flip side of that, she also mentions, after so many people in law enforcement going right to the judge were doing dodgy things to send Prime to prison and keep him there for a crime that he didn't commit, by the way, she says in her mind that she felt like he would be upset about her bringing Denham around him, but she still opts to do this and she doesn't tell him. Again, I can give her a little grace, she's the youngest, but it just gives me this push and pull feeling around her character, and it prevents me from really connecting with her. Of course, we do like our flawed characters, and it makes them interesting, but personally, I just don't think Piper works for me, and it makes me wish I was just reading about somebody else, because she just really comes across as very, very childish. I mean, even she goes on to ignore Denham for a week, and I felt like this was really ridiculous. She blocks him and she ignores him. Her being upset is actually valid, so I accept that she's upset, but how is an adult having a relationship without knowing how to do the barest minimum in terms of communication? I don't understand why there was no conversation had. She just immediately blocks the guy, and they only speak again because he literally seeks her out. She also approaches Prime, like near the end of this book, she approaches him about his crime, again spouting nonsense about protecting him, but her inner thoughts betray her. It's yet another selfish act, wanting to just protect her relationship, and deep down she's mad at Prime for jeopardizing her relationship that he doesn't even know about. This is after her dad tells her that he's already cleaned everything up, and even if Denham wanted to find something, he couldn't, so her approaching him about any crimes is really not necessary. She just has this feeling about how important she is to this family. It gives that she's overestimating herself. Probably every single critique that I had about this book in particular was all about Piper. In saying that, the things that I did like, I did actually admire Piper's decision to live for herself and not for anyone else, and her courage to go after love so boldly after such an embarrassing and hurtful divorce. She really has been through a lot with her divorce, and even her husband continuing to contact her, which is sort of a roadblock in her trying to move on and move forward with her life. I actually thought that this was a great aspect of her character. Even though, yes, I didn't like her, I can still really appreciate parts of her character and her characterization. These two things were really great for her, and I respected that. Denham, I thought, was really interesting. I don't usually like following detectives as protagonists because I feel like it's kind of a little bit sameish. They're a dog with a bone, and you can so easily lean into tropes that have been done to death, but I actually thought that Denham's character was really interesting, and I liked following him as a detective. Found the way that he handled his cases to be interesting, even with the use of common troops. I also didn't expect the twist on who committed the crime against Kamal. This is the crime that we are following from the very start of the book to almost the very end. Kamal is Denham's. They are friends, they are really, really close, they knew each other before they were even police officers, and so his death really, really hurts Denham, and he's determined to find out who did it. I also enjoyed hearing a little bit about how Prodigy runs his business and how he covers things up, because he's really a mystery, but he's present in all 3 books. Like, you hear about, I'm sure you even hear about him in the Letters to Prime, but it's like vague and they don't really go into it. They also made Prodigy more human by looking at him through Pierre's eyes, as well as the visit that he has at the hospital when he's visiting Piper. With him retiring, I think that it would be interesting to see a book coming from him, because he's also been through a lot and it's really shaped the way that he deals with his children and how he treats his children. It has implications on his children's lives, like how they've turned out. Overall, it can get a 4.5. That's the average. So it's still very, very solid. I would say that the spice rating, I'm going to give it an overall 4 for the spice rating. Final thoughts about this is that you can tell that Ray Anderson is a smart woman and that she's learned her craft. She's probably taken a few writing classes. You could just tell that the way that she puts this together, her prose is on point. She really knows what she's doing. They're not hard to read at all. It's just that I really wanted to savor the story. And so I found myself just taking more of my time with them by choice. She really knows how to write and put together a book worth purchasing. I would say though, I believe that Ray Anderson knows how to write men better than women, because I found that the female characters, like even Winter, were a little bit lacking in their characters. With Winter, you couldn't easily see it too much because it was much more focused on Prime anyway, for obvious reasons. He was on his revenge tour. But, you know, I did have a few issues with her even then, with her not holding Prime accountable, not saying certain things. Also, Peyton being kind of overlooked a little bit as a character when she was a catalyst for a lot of things, and it felt like we just needed more. It became more obvious with this book focused on Piper, I felt. However, I wouldn't knock this as her doing this completely. This might just be for this series because of the way that it's handled, and because it is basically a look on the judicial system. I feel like the message might have been something else. Romance was there, obviously, because they are romance books, but she was really more intently looking at other areas, and so I think that might possibly be why that happened. I would 1000% read more books from Ray Anderson. She is a great writer. I really enjoyed her work. Now we're done. On to the next.